Greetings and welcome back to Gadfly Academy. Last week we looked at criteria that we can use to determine whether or not a particular value can be considered a human value. As I mentioned before, while any discussion of human values will be fraught with challenges, if we do not attempt to discern this core of human values, we will not have any criteria by which to discern the relative value of technologies, nor the conviction to make the necessary changes to the way we live, which is, of course, our ultimate goal, to reclaim our lost attention. However, before continuing our consideration of human values in practical terms, I'd like to pull back a bit and ask the deeper question, are human values real? And if so, where do they come from? And if they're not real, what does that mean? The question of values, as it turns out, is a profoundly philosophical one. The reason that moderns struggle with clarity vis-a-vis values is that we have come to question whether or not values are simply man-made and therefore of relative value. Each of us must answer this question for ourselves. Personally, when I ask myself whether, for example, truth, beauty, and goodness are relative values or eternal values, I cannot imagine a world in which humans live and flourish where these values do not exist. For example, what would a world where nothing was considered true look like? If gravity isn't true, how could I move about the world? If beauty is to be abolished, how could one flourish in a beautyless post-apocalyptic desert? If goodness is optional and it was normal for every mother and father to be completely indifferent to their newborn child, what kind of a society would we end up with, and would we want to live in that society? These are the kinds of questions that have been asked for millennia. The Greek philosophers, and especially Socrates and Plato, in his theory of the forms in the Republic and Phaedrus, addressed the idea of eternal truths. In particular, Plato discusses three transcendentals, truth, beauty, and goodness, as being foundational to eternal reality. For Plato, these values are real and eternal. They were baked into the universe by God and cannot be subverted or disregarded. Personally, I cannot imagine a world, at least a world in which I would want to live, where truth, beauty, and goodness do not exist. The human values that we are discussing are values that are baked into the universe and that are therefore baked into humans. It is certainly possible to act contrary to these values, but when we elevate other values, in particular technocratic values, over human values, the reality is that our capacity for true human flourishing decreases. So my belief, obviously, is that human values are real and can therefore be discerned. Today, I'd like to offer a preliminary list of what I believe can be universally regarded as human values. It's likely that you will find values that you journaled about in the journaling exercise, as well as many other values that you cherish that you did not write about. For now, as you read through the following list, I would like you to answer the question, to what extent can this value be considered a human value, according to the criteria, the checklist we discussed last week? In case you forgot what those criteria are, I will repeat the checklist here for you. And again, all this is on the Substack blog. There's a link in the show notes where you can have these in front of you. So the first question is, does this value genuinely promote long-term human flourishing? The second question is this value livable and embodied in real human life? The third question is this value recognized across cultures, eras, and human experience? The fourth question is this value intrinsically worth pursuing beyond utility? The fifth question is, does this value guide human action and moral decision-making? The sixth question is, does this value strengthen human relationships and community? The 7th question is, does this value harmonize with and support other enduring values? And the 8th question is, does this value orient humanity toward meaning, purpose, and responsibility beyond the present? So if you would, please run each human value, or at least the ones that you are most interested in, through the 8 questions using a 5-point scale. 1, not at all; 2, slightly; 3, moderately; 4, strongly; and fully, clearly being a human value. Then you can total the scores for a maximum of 40. So that's 5 points and 8 questions. So high-scoring candidates, say 30 or more, are strong contenders for being considered universal human values. Medium scores suggest contested or context-dependent values. Low scores suggest preferences, fads, or instrumental goods rather than core human values. So here is the list of 51 values. Again, on the Substack blog, there's an explanation for each value. Right now, I'm just going to read through the list because it would take too long to include all of the explanations. So the first value is agency, then autonomy, awe, beauty, belonging, care, collaboration, community, passion, competence, courage, craftsmanship, creativity, equality, forgiveness, freedom, health, honesty, humility, integrity, justice, loyalty, mercy, mindfulness, neighborliness, patience, play, purpose, reciprocity, respect, responsibility, reverence, ritual, safety, self-reliance, self-respect, sensuousness, simplicity, slowness, solidarity, spirituality, stewardship, sufficiency, sympathy, transparency, trust, well-being, and wisdom. So I'm hoping that this exercise will help to clarify your own value system. I know that I am finding the process helpful. Before closing, I did want to run through the first value on the list. The value is agency, to give you an idea of how I might grade this particular value. So here is my evaluation of agency based on our 8 questions. Does this value genuinely promote long-term human flourishing? I gave it a 4. Is this value livable and embodied in real human life? I gave it a 4. Is this value recognized across cultures, eras, and human experience? I gave it a 3. Is this value intrinsically worth pursuing beyond utility? I gave it a 5. Does this value guide human action and moral decision-making? I gave it a 3. Does this value strengthen human relationships and community? I gave it a 3. Does this value harmonize with and support other enduring values? I gave it a 3. Does this value orient humanity toward meaning, purpose, and responsibility beyond the present? I gave it a 5. So it took me a while to think through my answers, and I actually changed them a few times, which just goes to show that most human values exist on a spectrum. Reality is far more nuanced than we're often willing to admit. Next week, I will discuss my thinking as regards the relative value of agency. In the meantime, I hope you'll find this exercise as rewarding as I have. And that is it for today. Before closing, however, I did want to ask you, what are some important human values that I might have missed? Also, are you learning anything about yourself in this process? And finally, as you evaluate these human values, have you encountered anything surprising? So please share in the comment section below. And as always, if you haven't already, please download the How Did We Get Here reading list and join our newsletter. So have a great weekend, and we will see you again next week. Take care.